each other through the amateurs and the professional ranks, so we should have some pretty close competition. Now, my name is Jamie Fisher. I'm a retired Lumberjack athlete. Over the course of my career, I was able to win 12 world titles for our country out there. I come from Stillwater, Minnesota. But today, I'm not going to be competing. My job's going to be a little bit easier. I get to be the judge, referee, and the MC, as all the events will be head-to-head competition. Now, the first event we got coming up for you is known as the obstacle pole race. These guys are going to demonstrate this event before they compete in it. That way you, the audience, knows the rules out here. They will start with their hands on the end of the log. On the command, they're going to reach down, grab their chainsaw, and run to the end of the OP log. From there, they're going to turn around, scale out to the very end where they start their saw and cut off one slab of wood. That cut has to come from both the front and the back side of their bar. Then they'll shut their saw off, turn around, run back down, and then it is a sprint as fast as they can to take the end. The Lumberjack doing that the quickest will be the winner. Now I'm going to let these guys warm up their chainsaws just one more time. That way they start on that very first pole. So gentlemen, if you're ready, I'll give you 30 seconds. Go ahead and warm them up. Alright, now I'm going to take a quick survey on who you think is going to win this first Lumberjack event. We're going to start things up on the red side. If you guys would like to see Kate call in, put your hands together for it. Ooh, that red team is ready to go. I like that. Alright, let's hear it for the blue team member. We've got Carl Alright, that's pretty equally impressive. Alright, boys, let's settle it out here in our first event called the obstacle pole race. 3, 2, 1. Alright, and they're up. Carl at the bottom, Kate at the bottom, both the racer at the very end. Let's see who's that saw started first. That's indication who's in the lead. Let's see. Holding on that side. He's on that front side. Carl's on his back. This is very close. And Carl's made some improvements. He's on his way down, and I think we've got a winner. Carl Swanson. He has got a fast saw out there. He's going to go up 1-0. Well, we're going to keep our events moving on fast, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to go from a chainsaw event to one of the oldest Lumberjack events in competition. We're going to get the Crosscut Saws out. So before the chainsaws were invented, a Lumberjack had to run either an axe or a Crosscut Saw, very similar to this. Now, the saws that these guys are using are a modern-day racing crosscut saw all the way from New Zealand. A company called Tuatai makes them. They're an M-tooth model, so each of the teeth out there are shaped like the capital letter M. That allows the saw to cut on both the push and the pull stroke, so they're very efficient saws. In between each set of teeth is a hole about the size of a dime called a gullet. It acts as a storage container for the sawdust. So the teeth do the cutting, put the sawdust in the gullet, and when the gullet is brought outside the block of wood on every stroke, it empties via gravity. There are 104 teeth on it. The saw is 5 feet tall, and you're going to notice that there are 2 handles out here, ladies and gentlemen, because this is known as the double butt competition. Now we got 2 handles, but only 1 Lumberjack. So for this particular event, we're looking for a couple of honorary Lumberjacks or Lumberjills, 16 or over, to come up here and have some fun with these guys out here. No experience necessary. So I tell you what, Kate and Carl, head up to the audience, find me 2 people, boy or girl, over 16 to try crosscut sawing. All right, so Carl, who are you pointing at? Put that saw down, get out there in front, and you got someone coming? Oh, way in the back. All right, sounds good. Now these guys are going to be taught how to use a crosscut saw just in case they have never used one before. There are 3 basic principles with a crosscut saw. You only want to pull on the saw, and then your partner pulls back. You never want to push on that saw, because if you don't push directly down the line, the teeth will catch on the cut, and it's called binding or stopping. It makes the saw stop right in the wood, and you don't cut. Also, principle number 2, you don't want to rock her like a teeter-totter. It's not a playground piece of equipment. You want to keep it as level and flat as you can. You pull straight back, and then your partner pulls straight back. And number 3, when you pull straight back, there's always a tendency to pull in towards your body. Well, that makes a curved cut. That curved cut has a lot of friction on the saw. You don't want that. So you look right down the top of the saw. You pull straight back, your partner pulls straight back, using the entire length of that saw. Now, you'll notice that they'll make a starting mark, approximately the depth of the teeth out there. They may flip their saw upside down so they can get a few strokes out there. They're going to set their feet a little bit wider and then use that whole saw back and forth. Now, the rules are as follows. On the command to go, they work together as a team to cut off one slab of wood known as a wood cookie. When the wood cookie touches the ground, that will be the end of the race. Now, they're also putting on some safety gear. Those orange leggings are called chaps, made out of 7 layers of a synthetic material, and they're actually designed for chainsaws, but you can double them up for the crosscut saw also. And I'll explain a little bit more of those chaps in a second. So, Carl, are you going to put a starting mark in? Or you guys feel pretty good with the little one that's on that side? You're going to get one? All right, sounds good. We'll give you a couple of seconds on that. And let's see, right now the blue team is up 1-0. So that red team, let's see if you guys can try to even things out. All right, gentlemen, take your starting position. 3, 2, 1. All right, and off. Like I said, they want to use a full stroke back and forth out there. And in the double buck competition, you can have either teams of 2 men, 2 women, or a Jack and Jill. Right here, we've got a very close team. That blue team there is making some headway. They're way ahead out here. That red team is binding up. They're not coming. That blue team is getting to the very bottom. But I think we're going to have an easy winner over here. Flying through. And I tell you what, they had a beautiful start out there. That blue team there up 1-2 in the crosscut saw. Now that was some beautiful cutting out here. I gotta come on over here. If I can have you come right to this side so I'm not in front of the speaker. What's your name, sir, and where are you from?
Rob, from Dubuque, Iowa.
From Dubuque. Now, how many years of experience do you have running a crosscut saw?
2 minutes.
2 minutes. All right, we got ourselves a rookie out here. Now, we do have a first place trophy for you. Carl's got that right there. A Lumberjack cookie. Nice job out there, Rob. We do have second place over here. What's your name? Where are you from, sir?
Brett Wolf from Washington, Iowa.
Brett from Washington. And is this your first time using a crosscut saw?
2.5 minutes.
2.5. Oh, just a few seconds longer out there. But I tell you what, excellent job. Give these two a round of applause. Thanks for coming up, guys, to help us out in our double buck competition. Now, in some of the other shows, we'll end up doing the single buck, so you remove one of the handles, and in that case, the Lumberjacks have to push and pull out there, but when there's not another handle on the other side with some weight, it makes it a little bit easier to control it. Also, in the double buck competition, once you get with a partner of maybe a year or more and lots of experience, then you actually start pushing a little bit more back and forth too to go a little bit faster. But as of the first time the team is out there, that golden rule is only to pull out there. Well, our next event is going to be the stock saw competition. You saw how much work it was for the double buck manual saws to cut off a slab of wood. This next one is what replaced the crosscut saws out there. Lumberjacks got tired of pushing and pulling on those all day long. So they invented a chainsaw out there, or actually, let's be honest, the Lumberjacks didn't invent anything. They hired smarter people to invent the chainsaw for them. And they got that manual labor replaced by an engine. Now that was later becoming known as the chainsaw. And around the 1930s, they really made some good modifications and developed the design of the chainsaw. So here is the most common event possible. It's a standard stock chainsaw. You're not allowed any modifications. And in this particular case, both the guys are running identical saws. One's got a CS 590, the other's got a CS 600. It's just a different model number, but it's the exact same saw depending on the year that it was made. In this competition, the guys will warm up their saws. They'll be idling. After they're warmed up, they place them on the ground and their hands go on top of the block of wood. On the command to go, they reach down, grab their chainsaw, and they have to make 2 cuts. The first one straight down, the second one straight up. And when that second block of wood touches the ground, that will be the end of the race. Now, since they have identical 10-inch square wood plus identical chainsaws, you might be wondering, what's the difference going to be in who wins the stock saw competition? Well, you can file your chains a little bit different, or you can learn how to run the saw to its maximum potential to get the fastest cutting out there. What that means is the balance between power and the speed of the chainsaw. You want to push down and use all the power that you can out there, but if you push down too hard, your chain starts to slow it down, and then it stalls and stops. And you hear it go, and it's not moving. That is kind of embarrassing for a lumberjack. You don't ever want to stall your saw. However, you want to make sure you're using all the power, so you have to push down hard enough where you're not wasting that power. Those RPMs, or the speed of the chainsaw, has to stay up as fast as possible. Anytime that speed drops, you're not cutting as fast as possible. So that's what these guys will be doing out here. Now it looks like these guys have their safety gear on, so once again, gentlemen, I'll give you 30 seconds. Go ahead and warm them up. right, chainsaws on, hands on the ground. Do you want your chainsaw on, Carl? There we go. 2 different rules of the stock saw. Here in Iowa, we get to have our saws running. 3, 2, 1. No doubt about it. Let's hear from Kate Call, ladies and gentlemen, on a beautiful upcut. Now, I did happen to notice, I'm going to borrow this cookie here for a second and show the audience something. In lumberjack competition, every now and then you hit a knot. A knot is where a branch grew out of a tree, and in this particular case, I can see 3 of them. 1, 2, 3. Knots are twice as hard in density as the rest of the wood out there, ladies and gentlemen. So he was cutting through harder wood and was still able to happen to win that event. Now, the Lumberjack switch shows every single day. You hit knots out there. It's part of the deal. It's not to take anything away or give anything to one of the Lumberjacks, but that is more difficult to win the event. And you can see that Kate out there was perfectly running that saw and navigated through those knots on that upcut to take the win. Now it looks like these guys are already getting ready for more events, which is the axe throwing competition. It's our only event with an axe out here, and this one is a lot of fun. Now guys, if you don't mind, grab the axe, walk in front of the audience so you can see what they are throwing. Now these are a true axe. It is not a hatchet. You probably have heard of the craze the last few years about all the axe throwing bars out there. Well, the definition of an axe is a handle that is at least 24 inches in length. These are running a standard 28-inch handle for the most part, sometimes up to 32 out there. But a 28-inch handle is your most common throwing handle out there. If it's less than 24, it's considered a hatchet, and that's what you see in the axe throwing bars. They like to call them axes, and it's not to take anything away from them. They are a little bit easier and considerably smaller, which means you throw from 12 feet away versus the 20 here. Now, the longer the handle, the longer it takes to make one full rotation. 20 feet is the international distance throughout the entire world out there. They will get 4 throws at the target. The first one does not count. It is only a practice throw. Then they'll get 3 consecutive throws, 4 points. Now that center bullseyes were 5, and then 4, 3, 2, and 1 point for that last outer white ring. A perfect score is 15, but anytime you're into the double digits, you're doing pretty well. And he is way low on that one. Now if you miss the entire target, you get 0 points and probably booed by your teammate out there. Alright, so we're going to see if he can pick things up there. He actually had a good rotation. He's going to see if he can bring that up just a little bit higher. It looked like it was right down the center, just a touch low. So he's going to bring that up, and there he goes, right back on track. Now, is that a 1-pointer? Oh, 3 points! All you have to do is barely touch the next point level, and you are awarded those higher points no matter what percentage of the axe is in any one level. So a beautiful toss out there. Second one coming through. He's got another 3, so he's on track. 3 and 3 is 6 out there. How many like to see 4 points into the double digits for a total of 10 if he can get to that 4-point range? Oh, pretty good. All right. What a bullseye. Yep, I like that. That'll work over here. He's got 6 points, and he's got 4. He's into the double digits. 10 points for Kate Call. All right, so we've got Carl Swanson coming on up, and looks like we're going to make sure that nobody's behind that target. So before we throw, now Kate was a 2-handed thrower, ladies and gentlemen. That's the most common throwing method out there. There's also a 1-handed throwing method, and we're about to see Carl do that. There's only been 2 people in the world who have thrown one-handed and qualified for the World Championships. They were in the early 2000s. However, we expect that Carl should be able to make it the next year or 2 here. He's been throwing very, very well. And he's a little high out there. That's all right. But first, a warm-up toss, trying to adjust that in there. Now he's got 3 throws, and the score to beat, like I mentioned, is 10. So that's either a couple of bullseyes or some very high scores out there. That's right, this isn't golf, ladies and gentlemen. You can get a little bit rowdy. You can let your lumberjack know out here. One-handed throw coming on up down the center. Oh, he's a little high. Do we have, is that a 1-pointer? 1 point. All right, so uncharacteristic up. And Kate is happy about that one. Definitely. So we're going to need a few bullseyes just to win this. Well, a 5 and a 4 and a tie, so we'll see if we can get him walked in a little bit closer out here. Oh, getting closer. It's at least 4. I can't see from here. Is that? Oh, he says 4 points. So he's got a total of 5 so far. You know what that means? He needs a bullseye just to tie things up. Blue team, do you guys think he can do it? That's a lot of confidence for a guy who's throwing 2 1s up there. Just gonna say that. No. The one on the warm-up, the one on the first throw here, but he's got a chance out here. He just needs a bullseye, and actually he threw some bullseyes earlier today, so I know he's got it in him. Again, one of the most consistent throwers typically out here. So we'll see how he does, and it's looking, oh, he missed it by about a half an inch. We'll cheer for your red team member, Keiko, ladies and gentlemen, coming back from a 2-0 deficit to tie things up at 2-2. Well, our next event is the springboard tree topping, and we're going to need some additional equipment for this event, ladies and gentlemen, namely the springboards themselves, which is the name of the event out there, springboard tree topping. The springboards are kind of like a ladder for lumberjacks, so you can stand on top of those and go up and down trees by putting a hole called a pocket into the side of the tree. You use that with either a chainsaw or an axe, and you put the springboard in it and you step on top of it. A springboard is basically a 2x6 with a metal end on it called a springboard shoe, and that's designed to stick into the pocket of the tree. Now it's got a curved cut so you can swing that springboard around a little bit and you can work on the tree. In this particular event, what's going to take place is the gentlemen will start with their hands on the end of the log. On the command to go, they run down, grab their first springboard, and place it in the 3 or the 6 foot pocket. Then they have to go down and get their second springboard and set that. Now this is the tricky part. After their second springboard is set, they have to grab their chainsaw, the stock chainsaw that they just used, climb up those springboards to the very top where they're going to start their saw, and they have to top the tree off. One cut, one cookie right off the top. But they're not even done yet. They're going to shut that saw off, turn around, jump out of that log, and they have to run all the way around the log again, taking the end, signifying the end of the race. So they start and stop in the same place. The first one to do that will be the winner. Now you might be asking yourselves, why would a lumberjack ever want to do that in the first place? And that's a pretty valid question. Well, there are 2 common reasons why you use the springboards. Picture yourself in the 1800s. You didn't have any manual labor, all you had was manual labor. You didn't have any mechanical labor, like trucks or tractors or anything like that, and you didn't even have a chainsaw. So if you're in a mountain state down here, either on the west or east coast, you wake up in the morning, there's a lot of dew on the grass, and you're on the side of a very slippery slope. That is very hard to chop the tree down. So you cut a little pocket at the bottom. You put your springboard in it, and then now you have a nice dry level platform where you can swing your axe to cut down the tree. Now, more commonly in the Midwest, the lumberjacks that came into the territory for the very first time to cut down and harvest the trees had virgin timber that were very large in diameter. Well, if you look at that very large diameter wood, you notice they have a bell-shaped portion at the bottom, part of the root system. That bell-shaped portion can be several feet or even 5 or 10 feet off the ground for the redwoods out in the west coast. That bell-shaped portion, number 1, is poor quality wood. Number 2, does not fit in the sawmill very well. And number 3, is very large in diameter. So lumberjacks would use their springboards to get above the bell-shaped portion, that root system there, where they would cut down that tree into the good quality wood.